On today's show, we bring in Willie O'Ree Award finalist Karen Ota-O'Brien to discuss her nomination for the Willie O'Ree Award, her journey through playing hockey and starting the Florida Women's Hockey League and Lucky Pucks Hockey Club.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, July 31st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So like we teased in our cold open, Willie O'Ree Award finalist Karen Ota-O'Brien is going to be joining us on the show to discuss the nomination and the growth of the game. So now let's get to that conversation with Willie O'Ree Award finalist Karen Ota-O'Brien. And now joining me on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as teased earlier, Karen Ota-O'Brien, the Willie O'Ree finalist. But there is more than just the nomination for the Willie O'Ree finalist. And for everyone, I want to introduce Willie O'Ree finalist and the president of the Florida Women's Hockey League, Karen Ota-O'Brien. Karen, welcome to Locked On Panthers.
Thanks for having me, Armin. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. And really heard your name mostly through in the month of February during All-Star Week when all the festivities were going on around the ice den. And I also want to give a special shout out to our friend Aaron Brown of the Hockey News for connecting us together. I saw you guys play in February, but really didn't interact with you until development camp this past year for the Florida Panthers, and then your girls' night out on it. I believe it was on a Thursday that week at the Panthers ice den, and that you and I got to interact. And the first thing that caught my eye was the tape that you had on your stick, the Canadian flag there. And I want to give you the floor for a little bit about your background, where you're from, and your travels around the world from where you were to now, and your access or lack thereof to hockey growing up.
Right. I grew up in a small little logging ranch and community town about 6 hours north of Vancouver in British Columbia. I'm proud to be Canadian. I'm just proud of my roots. It's a small town, but it was just growing up with the salt of the earth people. And but ironically, there was no girls hockey program there, and I didn't start playing hockey till I moved to Florida, to South Florida. And with the expansion of the Panther team coming in the early 90s, that started bringing out more women out of the woodwork with, just with them being a professional team. So I was able to slowly grow from my program of like 6 of us to a travel team that we played in the Sunshine State Games in the early 90s. And then from there, I met a lot of other women around the state. So in the early 2000s, the Florida Women's Hockey League was formed. And right now we have cities from all over the state, from as far north as Pensacola, Jacksonville, all the way south to South Florida. And so the Lucky Pucks also is part of that. That's a team that I started with a bunch of my girlfriends, and so we play in the Florida Women's Hockey League, as well as we skate twice a week locally, and play in some out-of-state tournaments too when we can fit it into our schedule.
Yeah, and the Florida Women's Hockey League, nonprofit organization, it founded in 2002. Lucky Pucks was a thing that was originated in 2007. Looking at the timeline there, but you also had a stop in between to the U.S. Virgin Islands in St. Thomas as well. There as well, but there's also the story about the invitation. It was, I believe, you were out to lunch with people when the idea was brought about. Take us a little bit into that conversation.
Well, it's because we were already playing in the Sunshine State games, and I'd met a bunch of women that were playing around the state. There was the owner and managers, Carlos Freitas' wife, Debbie Danman at the time, and Linda Ballinger. They were friends of mine, and we decided. Debbie had a really good connection with the West Coast with the kids program and was involved with Sayhoff Hockey and USA Hockey. So between the three of us, we met at a bar and wrote down a bunch of notes on how this was going to start. And with their help, the three of us founded the Florida Women's Hockey League, and to where it is today. I'm currently the president, have been for the past few years. But I got to tell you, working and organizing all these programs, it does take an army of women to help, and without the support of all them, the program wouldn't be where it is today. I have some very capable, intelligent, hardworking women behind me all the way to get where we are today. And the exposure with the NHL at the All-Star game, and me being a finalist for the Willie O'Ree, and with the USA Hockey Adult Player of the Year, really, it sure did. It not only gave us exposure, but it was a big validation of all the time and effort and all the unpaid volunteer hours it takes to start a program in South Florida. So I really appreciated both of those recognitions. It was nice.
Yeah, it's really great, and even though you didn't win the actual award, you're still a winner in our eyes, at least in mine, for sure. But one thing I do want to ask you is the fight for ice time when it gets to being on the rinks as well. There's videos of you guys at in Boca Panthers ice den, but when it comes to booking and even especially when you were starting, how was dealing with possible rejection for how do you guys handle possible rejection for ice time when you were trying to get girls night out and the Florida Women's Hockey League started?
That totally was a huge obstacle, but just building relationships with the owners of the rinks, Hal and Carlos and AJ, all three of them, the general managers of the Ice Den and Boca and Palm Beach in Lake Zone, Palm Beach Skate Zone in Lake Worth. I've known Hal and Carlos for as long as I started this program, and they've always been, really good supporters of the program, and slowly but surely, I have all their support as well. So I'm very appreciative of that. But that is to compete with programs for the kids, and the men's program, we tend to get bumped because we run a program that are all working moms, and it's hard for them to get out at 10 o'clock at night. It's not doable. So just with lasting long-term relationships, we've persevered, and with the help of those three guys, it's helped grow the program. And we're also moving in. This is the first year that we've started a U16 travel Lucky Pucks team that's all rostered in South Florida that we're really proud of. We partnered with Madison Eckler and her father, Todd, and they've been instrumental in getting that off the ground. And with our support, they're going to be playing in the Southern Girls Hockey League.
We're going to pause this conversation with our special guest, Karen Ota-O'Brien, on today's show and talk to you guys all about FanDuel. And take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend on betting everything from the money line to over under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. That's great. And with it being such a close-knit community, you spoke about women who have dealt with getting out at 10 p.m. to go to the rink and multiple rinks are open very late because you have to have your public skate, your youth hockey, your public skate, you name it. And usually the leagues are mostly open. The adult leagues are mostly open late at night, sometimes even past 11 p.m. and midnight at times. But you also deal with a lot of women who are dealt with the societal expectations of being moms and putting the pressure on them, but still having the opportunity to drop their kids off at home and coming to a community where they can just turn that off for a few hours, leave their phone in the bags in the locker rooms, and just have a very therapeutic environment. What do you want these people to take away when they do step on the ice?
Well, all along, I've always provided a safe, fun atmosphere where they can just come out and just go out and chase that puck for an hour. And it is probably the most therapeutic thing that I think a parent could have, because they're out there and it just kind of just cleanses their brain for a while, because all they're thinking about is chasing that puck around. And it's the GNO program and the Lucky Pucks travel program enables that. Well, I got to tell you, I started the Lucky Pucks just because I wanted a place for myself to play selfishly, because I wasn't college. I only started skating when I moved here. I knew how to skate from skating on frozen hayfields, but I wanted to create a spot for people like me that didn't come up in a college background. And it was just a play. I formed it for just a bunch of my girlfriends to play and to get out of town for the weekend, away from their husbands and wives and kids. So, and that just grew to, we now have a C division, 2 rec divisions, and a novice beginner division, which, funny it is that the beginner and novice is a lot of older women that are wanting to come out and that have been taxi cabs for their kids all these years, and now the kids are done, and now they're like, you know what, I want to try it. I want to do this. I want some mom time, and this is how I'm going to do it. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we've started, is just a sisterhood of a hockey family that women can come out and just have a good time for a couple hours.
One of the coolest things that I saw in the 3-minute video from introducing you for the Willie O'Ree Award is the fact that some of these women have started at age 11. At times they travel out of state to go play hockey, but even when they are done with college, even if they don't end up playing professionally, they come back they don't forget the
Yeah.
lasting impact of the community that you have created, even if it's something as simple as I don't know how many phone calls even outside the rink that you've had, or the amount of times that maybe it's like a 2-hour conversation outside the rink of just needing a friend as well. But I could only imagine those times when they were away. It's just so ingrained in their minds that saying it's safe, and I want to come back to something like this. How rewarding is it to see when someone goes away for a little bit to
It's so
to grow up and then to come back and still
Back, I
play.
know. You know, I just realized, I just gave me goosebumps when you said that, because it is kind of remarkable, isn't it? And one uh, really cool kind of circle is one of the girls, well, sisters, the Leffler sisters. They started with us when they were 11 and 12, and actually I did get some pushback from the women, because they were good too, and these women were saying, well, this is for women, and I'm going, yes, but without, they don't have anywhere else to skate, and I want to provide a safe spot for them. Their dad asked if they could play. They can totally play because they're very good. They're probably better than some of you guys, so no, we're gonna keep them. And it was just been a full circle. Those two girls did went to college. Katie went to UMass, and but we just, they keep in touch. And whenever they were, when Katie came into town, and her sister continued to play with us, she would play. And now they're in their 20s, and Katie now is the head coach for the U16. So it's kind of like been a full circle, and it's been just cool to see. But yes, it's a place where these women and girls could come to if they were having problems at home. We would help them out and give them that camaraderie, and that feeling that, hey, you're not in this alone. You have all your hockey sisters, and we can help you get out of this, any situations or bad situations that they were in. So, but that's, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It makes me feel happy that we're providing such a place for people like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of, and I'm sure what has them coming back is one word that a lot of the women probably don't have when it comes to bringing back these people, and that word is judgment too. That is probably why they come back, because they don't feel that sense of judgment on whatever they may be going through. But I do want to talk about your nomination for the Willie O'Ree Award, and you've known Willie O'Ree, the underdog story of him, and but the awareness of the award as well. And you, of course, this wasn't an award that wasn't around until just a few years ago. So definitely, it's not something that you did for the notoriety. You just wanted to bring people together. But ta- this, tell the listeners a little bit about how that call or text or email was when you were first notified that you were named a finalist for the Willie O'Ree Award.
It was, yeah, it was. I cried. I cried and said, "Why didn't you couldn't tell me this?" Because I'm on camera and I didn't wear my waterproof mascara. But I did know of Willie O'Ree and his story, and after learning how it came about, me getting nominated too, was it happened very organically, and with all my teammates. They had just found out about it, and the closing of the voting or the nomination process was 24 hours. So they were able to grab behind my back without me knowing, getting about 40 nominations within 24 hours to the NHL. And then from there, the NHL just qualified me. And then I was given a call, and it just, there was, when I was nominated, the first things that came into my head were maybe the three things bad that had happened through these years. And I went, wow, all of that, the heart, all the long hours, and there were some challenges through these 30 years that I've been doing it. And it just was, it was all worthwhile. The NHL actually recognizes what it takes. And it was huge. It was a huge recognition. And to be up against all these other do-gooders that were, from Canada and the United States, I was like, it was pretty, pretty, it was pretty, felt pretty awesome. And that Willie O'Ree family now, the nominations, we become a family, and there's some amazing people, and it only inspired me to where I can maybe take my group next to doing more philanthropy and reaching out to doing more outreach programs, and helping the underprivileged kids as well. So it just only made me aware of more things that could be done in the hockey community.
We're going to pause this conversation with Willie O'Ree finalist Karen Ota-O'Brien. We'll be back to this conversation after this commercial break.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, and to say that someone's impact on a community is more than another, for me, that's not at least the way that I see this award. I know there had to be a winner the way this was structured either way, but the way the award was distributed is the winner got $25K to charity of their choice, and the other finalists got $5K towards their charity of choice. Talk
Yes.
to us a little bit about your charity of choice.
It is going back to the girls program, because I think that is needed. The Lucky Pucks is the first all South Florida rostered, so I really want to help them out. And I want to give back. One storyline that really touched my heart was he's the Baltimore gentleman, Noel. He won. He was a winner last year, I believe. No, 2 years ago. And his program is Tender Bridge, and he does an outreach program for underprivileged kids in Baltimore. So I'm going to give back a little bit to him as well. All the two other gentlemen that I was up against, I was just happy. I was happy that if any one of us had won, it was because they all deserved it as well. So the 5K will go towards a really good, to good programs, and will not go to waste. That's for sure.
No doubt, and I'm sure the fact that even if they're not physically seeing it, the fact that it's known that it's going back to the program to possibly go possibly to another tournament out of state if that's what's needed, if it's for more advertising and promotion as well, and all that can only benefit. There's no hurt, especially in that sense when it comes to that. And you spoke about the Lucky Pucks U16 girls team, but also I want you to have an opportunity to promote your golf tournament that's going on in September, your Lucky Pucks golf tournament.
Right. Yes. Well, back to, with the U16, these parents, it's a lot to do for a travel program. So that's, how and just plain travel program, period. For the women as well. And that's why we started this golf tournament about 15 years ago, just to help offset costs that it takes and to help run the program, my travel program, or the Lucky Pucks program. It is our 15th annual, and I'm a firm believer of just paying it forward as well. So not only does it help, like I said, to go to the help offset costs for individuals that can't afford to play, but I like to donate back to charities close to our heart, the Leukemia Society, the Cancer Society, where we've lost some dear sisters through that. The SPCA is close to my heart. Women in Distress, the St. Jude's. These are all also charities that we like to partake in, and so pretty proud of the fact that we've raised over probably about 25,000 just for charities
Amazing.
itself, but not only going back into helping, single moms or college kids, or and now with the junior team to help their parents pay for their kids being able to travel, because it's expensive.
Yeah, and also women who are possibly getting divorced as well, who have the
Yes,
burden
yes.
of having to claim custody for kids as well. So that's a really hard for them, and this eases that burden as they're wanting to just get on the ice and just and like we mentioned earlier, just relax a little bit from that as well. And of course, this is all about growth. Over double digit teams around the state of Florida in the Florida Women's Hockey League. But if a female is trying to get into the 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 female that is listening to this podcast is wondering how to get started, and they're thinking that would be fun, what would you tell them is the best way to get started in being part of Girls Night Out, Lucky Pucks, the Florida Women's Hockey League? What is your advice to them?
Well, we are in the fall. We are partnering with the Panthers and going to be doing a ball hockey clinic, to start, for people that don't know whether or not they like the game of hockey. Um, the Panthers also do a learn to play program.
Mhm.
They're all over at all the rinks, and that is where they also outfit you with some really nice hockey equipment, with the bags, skates. They fit you with all the equipment, and then they give you, I think it's a 12-week course of where you learn how to skate, you learn how to play hockey, and then once you're done that, then you're ready for the transition of going into the Girls Night Out program that the Lucky Pucks offer, and that's a weekly program, which is, there's no refs. It's just a shinny game. It's just a fun game. We split into groups and we put the lines accordingly to your how good how good you are, and then if you're even wanting it more and wanting to get more involved in the travel program, then there's a spot for you there. And we've even began, like I said, a novice beginner. So all this information is on our site, luckypuckshockey.org, and you can also follow us on Instagram or on Facebook, which is at Lucky Pucks Hockey. And you can just give me a holler. I'm as close as the phone. Just give me a holler, and I'll see how we can get you fitted into one of these groups. If you already have experience, then just reach out, and we'll get you in the JNO program.
And one note before we get out of here is, if you do participate in Learn to Play and get fitted, you do get to keep the equipment. That is part of paying for the Learn to Play program at the Panthers Ice Den. And like Karen said, uh, l- um, about her website, if you want to rewind the show to have her say it again, you guys, the listener, are more than welcome to do that. And hopefully there is nothing but growth here on when it comes to women's hockey in the state of Florida and worldwide even. But Karen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, discussing growing the game with you. And I want to say thank you, and I hope to see you again in person
Yes.
next time I come down to South Florida.
Anytime, Armin. You know where to find me. Ice Dinner at Boca Ice, or at the skate zone in Lake Worth.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And every day, make sure you come back on Wednesday for another edition of Winans Wednesday. So I'm Armando Velez with Karen Ota-O'Brien. and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.